For the second day, the Arise Ghana protesters against economic hardships in the country are openly expressing their displeasure on the first day, which turned chaotic. Some police officers, protesters and other persons sustained some injuries. The police say that happened when the demonstrators started pelting their vehicles. In a statement issued on Tuesday, the Director of Public Affairs, Chief Superintendent Grace Ansa Akrofi, said the police is viewing footage of the event and any person found culpable will be brought to book. Earlier, members of the Arise Ghana group were seen close to the LWAC Stadium with heavy security presence. Conveners of Arise Ghana say the two-day demonstration will seek to protest persistent and astronomical hikes in fuel prices, protest the imposition of the e-levy on the already burdened Ghanaians, demand a full-scale and bipartisan parliamentary probe into COVID-19 expenditures, protest the grabbing of state lands, particularly the declassification of huge portions of the Achimota Forest Reserve, and protest against the increased rate of police brutalities, as well as demand the total cancellation of the fraudulent Ejapa deal. We'll go over now to speak to our correspondent, Nyako Walker, to tell us what is happening at the moment. Good afternoon, Walker.
Good afternoon, W.
What are the scenes there as we speak now? Yesterday was very chaotic. How is it today?
Today has been very peaceful. As at now, I can tell you, the march, slow march started exactly 12:05 from the LWAC Stadium through the Lands Commission and then hit the main road just in front of the Flagstaff House. And of course, has continued to be very peaceful. We are heading towards, or the protesters are heading towards the Finance Ministry. And I have Mr. Joshua Akamba here. Let's speak to him and then ask him some few questions about this demonstration. Honorable Akamba, we are going to...
I am not an honorable.
Yes, sir.
Honorables are the MPPs. They are the honorables.
Thank you.
Honorables in shipping, wolfskin. Those are the ones, the MPP people, criminals.
Yes, sir. Mr. Akamba, so we are going to the Finance Ministry. What actually are you going to do at the Finance Ministry?
If you know, that's Akufado's brother. And then this is the person, the family member, who is actually the head of slaughtering and butchering. You understand? Making things very, very difficult for us in Ghana. So, one, you know that one part of our fight has to do with e-levy. And then the other one has to do with Ejapa. The other one has to do with fuel expenses. The other one too has to do with accountability. The COVID money, accountability. Several issues that we are raising. The other one has to do with the lands. What do you call it? Forestry lands that the MPP decided to share among themselves. So we are taking it, obviously, special advisor in spirit, in charge of Akufado's finances and spending on behalf of the Akufado's family is Ken Oforiata. So we are going to submit a wonderful love letter to him, and then after that, we'll submit equally to members of parliament.
You mentioned accountability concerning COVID-19 funds. Finance Minister last week came to Parliament and explained to the Parliament. Are you not still satisfied?
What kind of explanation? Well, he was a bit confused himself. We've gotten $430 million, right? For long, we have been looking for accountability. It's not coming. The president at that time, or the finance minister himself, decided to account $100 million, which he claims he used to buy watches for people to eat. Then that's between Accra and Greater Kumasi, you know. So then we come and what do you call it? To account, and he tried to even engage accountability. So we want it done in a better way for it to solve the problems of this country.
In just
Nyakwa Bernard Munah is our man on the ground, and he is following the protesters as they go about their rights. And definitely we'll bring him back when we have him and he has more to report. Meanwhile, the police have spotted a demonstrator, Mr. Joshua Kamba, with a weapon among the crowd of demonstrators gathered around the LWAC Stadium today, 29 June 2022. He was duly advised by the police to put the weapon away after his attention was drawn to the illegality associated with such an act. He was also urged to notify other demonstrators to desist from carrying offensive weapons during the demonstration. Also, police intelligence indicates that some demonstrators are acquiring catapults with the intention of using them during the demonstration. The police is cautioning these individuals who intend to foment trouble to desist from such an unlawful conduct, as the police will take all necessary professionally driven measures to enforce the law and protect life and property. A leading member of the Arise Ghana demonstrations, Mr. Bernard Munah, says he is disappointed in what he describes as the violent attacks by the Ghana Police Service and its inability to manage the situation at the venue of the planned demonstration by the group. Today, the group plans to present a petition to the Speaker of Parliament. Mr. Munah says the group is peaceful and they never planned things to turn ugly. The group is calling for the abolition of the electronic levy, the removal of all charges and taxes on petroleum products, as well as for measures to reduce the economic hardship on Ghanaians. Mr. Munah spoke with GBC News.
He is pelting stones at police, and then we who are protesting get hold of the person and say, police, take this person. He is doing something that our leaders say we should not do. Will you leave the person? If you had picked that person up, it will serve as deterrent on any other person probably who wanted to throw stone or pelt at the police, such that we will have come. Now, we decided as leaders to retreat with our people. We didn't move. We stayed in the circle. Whilst we were staying there, we were addressing the crowd, and when we were addressing people, they rather come closer. As they came closer, the police started surging on us, aiming at those of us who are the leaders and speaking from the care track from where we were standing. Why? Is this too much to ask of our government to lessen the economic hardship that we are going through? And you unleash the police on us? Go through this route that we want you to go through. We say we will not. We want to go through this route. You also say we will not. We are here. Does that warrant an attack? And whilst you were still beating us, you immediately issued statements. And they are not even ashamed. In their statement, they captured that, why? The situation is still not under control. And I feel personally that there is a certain instructions on me. Because even as the boys took me into the lorry station in Circle, the police were still at the overhead shooting into where I was. They managed to take me from that end to Neoplan Station, and you know how far Neoplan Station is from the Kwame Nkrumah Circle. The police were still taking aim at where we were. So if I say that you have a special target for me, I am ready. And I said this yesterday, that I was willing to be sacrificed for all the attacks on any other person. The police could have come for me and to stop the barbarism that was displayed. Otherwise, when leaders are talking and you are professional police, you rather walk to the leadership. Not so. You don't start with attacks on them. Yesterday, the police had a problem and they went to court for yesterday. They never went to court on the routes and every agreement for today. So I expect them to behave more professional, more reasonable, and to know that the struggle we are in will benefit them. Because when e-levy is on, they will get momo. When petroleum prices drop, they will get reprieve. Their little income will become more useful. When the cost of living is lessened, it means that they will become better citizens and they will take care of their families. It is our collective struggle. Because they are in uniform, they cannot join us. They should not frustrate our struggle. That will ensure that they also have economic reprieve.
What do you want government to do?
Withdraw e-levy immediately. It will foster economic relief. Reduce petroleum prices. Remove all the charges and taxes. In other jurisdictions, they have provided relief. And if you do that, transport fares will come down. And when transport fares come down, your life will be better. Food prices will come down. Not so. Ensure that you are able to stabilize the currency so that the cedi is not the worst currency performing in the world any longer. Reduce the level of inflation. These are things within the domain of the government.
What happens if you don't get it?
We will continue to protest.
The Arise Ghana demonstration on Tuesday turned chaotic, and police and protesters exchanged tear gas and stones. The police threw tear gas when, according to them, the protesters were trying to use unapproved routes. In the end, they arrested about 30 of the protesters. What can be the cause of police-civilian violence, which has happened in the country many times in recent times? A security expert, Dr. Vladimir Entridanso, joins me on phone for some explanation. Good afternoon, sir, and thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. You don't use the expert on me. I'm an analyst.
Great. Thank you, sir. Those were very disturbing events that we witnessed yesterday. What is your assessment of the chaos between the police and the protesters yesterday, first off?
Well, my take on it is very simple. It was not unexpected because in this country, we don't learn from the past. In the first place, we are very quick at establishing blame and thinking that we are pious and we are right, somebody is wrong. That attitude is very incorrect. And again, the moment we mention police, then we believe that we need to confront them. But the very reason, the question you asked, the very reason why we are having this, or we have this pervasiveness of police-public confrontation always when there are demonstrations, is the very fact that we have not been able to divorce demonstration from rioting. Anytime we want to go on demonstration, rioting at the back of our mind rather than demonstration. Police don't interfere in demonstration. They make corridors for people to express their feelings, and they help the people through some routes to be able to see authority and hand over their grievance. And that's the demonstration. But when you begin to burn ties, attack pedestrians, attack commuters, attack the police, that is criminal. And that is when the police will respond. But invariably, all our demonstrations in this country have been riots, and we label them as demonstrations. As long as we riot and we think the demonstration, the police will then react as per the remedy given them by the Constitution to instill public order and protect public. So we will continually have this until we understand what is demonstration and what is rioting or mobocracy.
Doc, even as we try to differentiate between rioting and demonstration, I would want to know, at what point could the police have avoided this chaos?
They can only avoid this demonstration with the demonstration when the people are peaceful, not rioting, not throwing missiles, and not attacking the police, obeying the police command. Take this through, because what is the end game? The end game is the people want to express something for the government to see, or the public to see. That's no crime. And then the police will have to say, okay, express this through this route or through that route. If we disobey and we want to confront the police, that becomes criminal. So at that point, the police will use the legitimate tools given them by the Constitution. That is application of force. And there are rules as to how to apply force. They escalate. So they may give warning shots, they may first appeal orally, give warning shots, use tear gas and cannons, the water cannon. If still things are going bad and they are overwhelmed, they will call in the military. So there are rules of procedure on all these. So at the point that people are becoming unruly, the police will have to react.
Doc, in this case, would you say the police were overwhelmed?
No, I don't think that they reached a point where they were overwhelmed. If they were overwhelmed, they would have called in the military. Okay.
And then when it comes to crowd management, are we doing enough? In your earlier statement, you said we haven't learned from the past because we have incidences as this one that has happened yesterday. So are we doing enough to prevent these chaotic scenes when we are supposed to be going for demonstrations and then later it turns into riots?
In conflict and crisis management, there is never a thing like enough, because you are overwhelmed by the intricacies of any new kind of movement. Crises move from one step to another, and no two crises are the same. No two conflicts are the same. So we continually have this until we understand the essence of crisis management.
At what point do we also lay the blame on the demonstrators, especially the leaders?
I have always blamed the leaders of demonstrations in this country. I have always blamed them. It serves their political kind of calculus, their political interest. Their utterances are not encouraging enough. And you know, I have taken part in demonstrations before, and I've advised myself, politicians leading you, in 10 minutes they are vanished with their V8 and V6, and then you are left with the police. They beat you, and last time the police struck, some 6 years ago, somebody lost an eye. I hear that guy is dead. And of what purpose? What has it served? Those who have gained are the politicians who are still alive. So you see, yes, it serves the interest of the leadership. And you know, organizing riots and demonstrations, the leadership must be serious about what they are doing. They must take into consideration their own power as their aim also. If the followers are not protected and towards the achievement of the aim, then they are being selfish. And in this country, there's so much selfishness. You see a leader of a demonstration veering away from the purpose of the demonstration to political vituperation. You see the thing into political language and that sort of thing. I think the political battle is the ballot, and it's not demonstration unnecessarily.
Right.
Killing innocent people on the street of a gun. So yes, leadership or demonstrations have not shown that kind of maturity and dexterity needed to lead a people.
Doc, the police has hinted of prosecuting the leaders. Do you think it is the right call?
Well, if they have cause to believe that the leaders planned something which is criminal, then they have every right to pick leadership. Everywhere in the world, leadership is always picked. You remember the big six. When Kwame Nkrumah led the insurrections, including the Positive Action Day, the leaders were all arrested, and that was the reason why Dakar was so much angry. You know, so leadership is always picked when things go on.
Right. But
please need some information from the leadership so that they can address some other issues who can be picked. But when the police also believe that picking the leadership will exacerbate the situation, they have to be cautious. Because when Nkrumah and others were picked, it infuriated the followers and it increased the tempo for action.
But do you find any shortfall in the training of police in this country?
Well, I wouldn't say so. They have modus operandi, and their way of training, which you and I may not understand. Yes, there may be faults here and there. Some of us have been part of their training and things like that. But the things they need to know, they have all been trained about that. But it's one thing training a person, and then when there's action, in the theater of action, some people may go wayward. For example, the policeman who slapped the guy who had been handcuffed. There was no need. And that one is not part of a training. You can see that this is part of a person's upbringing. He doesn't have the patience. You know, so that policeman who slapped the guy, for example, it was uncalled for. But you saw another policeman helping somebody who had been injured, pouring water on the person and cleaning the blood for the person.
Yes.
So you saw two different kinds of policemen over there.
Right.
And you didn't tell me that this is the type of training they are giving, that slap a person who is already down. The person is already in handcuffs and doesn't pose any threat.
But what will be your evaluation of the media's reportage yesterday and possibly today as the protest is still ongoing?
Well, unfortunately, today I haven't watched it, but yesterday I watched it very fully. I took my hat for the media reportage. We were saying it raw as it is, no innuendos, no review, no kind of analysis. You just give as it is before you call experts to analyze. That is very good. And that I say this because in crisis management, the media plays a very important role if you don't handle it very well. When we were on the draft committee, this is what we were warning, and you guys insulted us to the full. You didn't understand what we were saying. What we were saying is that in crisis management, media reportage is very important. If you start adding innuendos and other things, you are pouring petrol into fire. So this time, I strongly suspect that you are handling it very well. Yesterday, I watched Roland Walker, and it was very good. Its interrogation of the public, was trying to let them also understand why the police would react if they are not law-abiding. And that helps to mitigate the fury.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time.
You are very welcome.
Dr. Vladimir Entry-Danso is a security analyst. Ghana's first ever gold refinery will soon open for business. This sets in motion government's determination and policy to add value to its mined minerals of refining at least 30% of all gold produced in Ghana. A trial run for the facility has taken place and awaiting formal opening by President Akufo-Addo to officially start work in August 2022. Bernard Munah with this report.
Named Royal Ghana Gold Refinery, construction on the facility began in 2019, executed by Saponji Palonji, an Indian company, with equipment such as scanners, control rooms, India into the Royal Ghana Gold Refinery, and this gives government a 20% equity share in the company, while the Indian investor takes 80%. According to officials, Ghana has a first-class assay laboratory which can determine the purity of the gold under 2 minutes. What is left is for the London Bullion Markets Association and alliance with International Hallmark and Convention to certify Ghana's refined gold.
All the major banks, this is how they store their gold, 4 nights.
Just 6 months into the implementation of the 3% withholding tax cut to 1.5% on gold processed locally, records at the Precious Minerals Marketing Company, PMMC, show an increase in production and profit margins from 100 kilograms in 2020 to 1,900 as of May 2022.
This is a major game changer in the gold mining industry, because as you may well be aware, for over 100 years that Ghana has been mining gold, there's not really been a state-owned or state equity participation in a gold refinery in this country. And therefore, with this coming on board, we believe that it is going to change the narrative.
The takeoff of the refinery will boost the economy and expand the job market.
What is important to them is also traceability as to where you get the gold and how you get them and where you refine them. As a government, we are also interested in getting gold that is certified both by the community and the country. If we get a refinery here, obviously, as I said earlier, we are going to expand the base of the natural resource economy as far as gold is concerned.
Inspection of the facility by a Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources in charge of mines, Mr. George Mrikuduka, and his team precedes the grand opening in August. For GBC News, Clara Mlanu reporting.
The Trades Union Congress is asking of government a 20% non-taxable cost of living allowance to cushion workers from the inflationary pressures. In an interview, the TUC Secretary General, Dr. Yaba, also called on government to reduce the high policy rate.
The cost of living crisis is a huge crisis. And that is why on May Day, we asked government to grant COLA, the cost of living allowance for all workers of this country. Because this year, 2022, we had an increase of only 7% for public sector workers. And so we are asking for 20% because inflation is now around 27%. And we hope that government will listen to us because there's no time to waste. We have written to government, we have written to the president, the letter was delivered on Monday. We are expecting that we engage around that letter with government as soon as possible. Why is the negotiation of minimum wages going on? The negotiation is for 2023. But what we are saying is that before 2023, government should grant COLA, cost of living allowance for all categories of workers mentioned in our letter. When our governments and our employers don't seem to know our value, we withdraw the service. That's what they call strike. You withdraw the service, and then they get to know the value of the service, and then when you start to negotiate, they know the value of the service. And so now you can have some, stronger position during the negotiation. So everything is on the table, and I hope that, they do not allow that to happen because this will harm the economy in a very, very bad way.
Timelines to this COLA?
When the time comes, we announce the timelines, and we hope not. We hope that government will listen to us and they will pay the COLA as soon as possible so that Ghanaian workers will have their burden reduced a bit or minimized. If they don't do it, everything is on the table. We will do what trade unions do. And one of the things the trade unions do is that if they see that the employers are not listening to them, they withdraw their services.
The meaningful involvement of the youth in the political and governance processes in their respective countries has been identified as the key of preventing them from falling prey to extremist groups who recruit and radicalize them. This was disclosed by a representative of the Special Envoy of the African Union, Sabina Infoba, at the commencement of a two-day summit by the youth from the African continent.
There has been a decline of democratic processes across the African continent. The continent is now facing daunting challenges as a result of coup d'etats, which require a collaborative effort to curtail. The summit therefore comes in handy as it engaged young people from 15 African countries, especially from the ECOWAS sub-region, for reorientation. The summit, which will be a regular feature, will serve as a legitimate channel through which the voice of the youth regarding their current and future will be heard. Another crux of the summit is that it will shift the narrative from just blaming coup plotters to what makes coups attractive in the sub-region. While regular elections have remained the transfer of power in a majority of African countries, the quality of democracy guarding these elections have been questionable. The increased contested elections, electoral violence, and the crave for third-term presidential bids are worrying signs for the future of democracy on the continent. Young people, who are said to be the demographic superiority of the continent, continually bear the brunt of the impact of ineffective governance across Africa. Issues like rising cost of living, unstable economies, lack of access to healthcare, education, and poor youth participation have also plagued young people on the continent, stunning their growth. A representative of the Special Envoy of the African Union, Sabina Infoba, said the constant neglect of the youth in the governance process of the country makes them vulnerable to extremist groups and must be dealt with.
To address the challenges of poor governance, young people must be meaningfully involved in the implementation and tracking of the Sustainable Development Goals and the African Union Agenda 2063 by being frontline actors with the help of the state and non-state actors, some of your presence. We should conduct civil education, provide healthcare services, shelter, access to education and food. The youth should actively and meaningfully participate in politics, become entrepreneurial, and fully exploit the African Continental Free Trade Agreements, become advocates for good governance, and build the spirit of volunteering and community building.
Money laundering, human trafficking, corruption, gender-based violence, and cybercrimes in Africa dominated discussions when members of the Attorney General Alliance Africa met in Accra. The forum also deliberated on ways to enforce policies to secure the cyberspace against new and emerging threats.
The Attorney General Alliance Africa provides joint training programs, information exchange and knowledge sharing on the rule of law and combating transnational crimes in Africa. It also builds the capacity of prosecutors of transnational crimes in Africa. At a two-day conference to address some of the challenges associated with tracking transborder crimes in Africa, the co-chairman of the Attorney General Alliance Africa, Mr. Sean Rees, commended Ghana for instituting measures to protect citizens against cyber crimes.
We realize that on the continent here, that there is so much innovation going on. We see very promising progress from nations throughout the continent, from the very incredible innovation that we see here in Africa. We're impressed by what's going on in Ghana, as well as many other nations throughout Africa. What is that balance between regulation and innovation? How much is too much regulation? What will help set Africa on an even stronger path going forward?
The Deputy Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Mr. Alfred Chia Yeboah, was grateful to the Attorney General Alliance Africa for the training offered the law enforcement agency, adding that it will enhance efforts in the fight against crime and improve security.
We have enacted a number of laws like the Electronic Transactions Act, Data Protection Act, Economic and Organized Crimes Act, and redrafted the 2019 National Cybersecurity Policy. We have also created a Cybercrime Unit, a specialized unit at the Criminal Investigations Department of the Ghana Police Service, with a primary role as detection and investigations of crime.
The Director of Corporate, External and Legal Affairs Digital Crimes Unit at Microsoft, Mr. Peter Annerman, says new technologies must be developed to help monitor all forms of crimes and called for an all-hands-on-deck approach to secure the cyberspace. The program was on the theme Exploring New Frontiers for Cybersecurity and Africa's Digital Future.
The Commander Edina Iguafo, a Brim Municipal Health Directorate, has issued an embarrassing report to parents and opinion leaders about a shameful practice identified as the major cause of teenage pregnancy and child marriage in the central region, particularly in the municipality. The abominable practice is called Sheleche. Sheleche is a practice where a boy offers between 5 and 10 cedis and a candle to a girl partner in exchange for sex. Per the contract, the candle is lit as the sex act begins, and until the candle wax is completely waned, the act continues.
The Ghana Health Services 2020 reports indicate that almost 110,000 adolescent pregnancies were recorded in the country. The Central Region placed third after Ashanti and Eastern regions with over 10,000 pregnancies. In the Commander Edina Iguafo Brim municipality, there is a practice called Bokomodoawar, which has led to teenage pregnancies in the area. Usually,
When a teenager gets pregnant, she is pushed by her family to go and live with the man or boy responsible for the pregnancy. Now, the latest practice is shele. A boy makes an offer of 5 cedis or an amount usually not more than 10 cedis plus a candle to a girl partner for sex. The candle lighted during the sexual intercourse has to be exhausted before the contract ends. In the event when the girl begins to feel tired before the candle is melted completely, the sex act is suspended and continued at a later time. In the case where it is the boy that gets tired before the candle melts completely, another or other friends of his could continue for him till the candle is down. To find a lasting solution to this, the Ghana Health Service, with support from International Needs Ghana, an NGO, held the consultative meeting at Cape Coast with parents, traditional and community leaders, religious leaders, and assemblymen. The forum was held under the NGO's project called Promoting Adolescent Girls Safe Spaces PASS, which is being implemented together with the UNFPA and UNICEF through the global program to end child marriage. The People and Culture Manager of International Needs Ghana, Mr. Fred Harley, spoke about the project and some findings.
Basically, we are trying to create safe spaces for adolescent girls where they will be empowered with education and knowledge on issues that border on adolescent pregnancy, adolescent marriage, and more importantly, sexual and gender-based violence identified within these communities.
A senior health officer at the Commander Edina Egwafo Brim Municipal Health Directorate, Madame Belinda Salasi Agbuga, threw more light on the shameful practice and how it is affecting the future of children.
I have a lot of cases of teenage pregnancy in the schools and the communities as well, but now it's going down. There's a lot of education is going on through the discussions we have at the PASS project.
We go back to our correspondent on the ground, Walker Branuma, with the demonstrators to give us an update with what is currently happening.
The COVID levy. There are no jobs. There is no money in our pockets. We are dying. We are suffering. Government must show empathy. Government must show sensitivity. Government must show modesty and ameliorate the plight of the ordinary Ghanaian.
All right, if it were the NDC, what would have the NDC done differently?
The NDC would not have imposed baller tax on fuel. We would have scrapped the special petroleum tax in 2017. We would have ended the ESLA by 2020. You understand? We will not have imposed COVID levy on the Ghanaian people, given the devastating impact of the pandemic on businesses and Ghanaians. We will not have imposed this obnoxious, wicked e-levy, which has collapsed the Momo industry and which is imposing untold hardship on the Ghanaian people.
So the hardship, someone would say it's now global because of the hikes in crude oil. And the government says it's putting measures in place to ensure the plight of the Ghanaians. It's a mitigator, I mean, to help the...
What has the baller tax got to do with global dynamics? What is global about baller tax? Where in the world have you seen the government impose baller tax on fuel? Where in the world have you seen governments impose COVID levy on their people in this time of economic difficulty?
So you are referring to the sanitation levy?
Yes, of course. That is baller tax. And I'm talking about the e-levy. I'm talking about the COVID levy. They don't make sense.
All right, let's come to the sanitation levy, which the president said he would want to make Ghana one of the... All right, so we're talking to Sami Jamfi, the National Communications Director of the National Democratic Congress, and he is saying that all he wants is that the government should ensure that he had scrapped all the taxes on crude oil and other ones like the sanitation tax and others to ensure that the people of Ghana will become a bit eased when it comes when we talk in terms of economy. So that is what he is saying. We are continuing to the finance ministry. Currently, we are around the Nigerian embassy. So that's where we are reporting from now. Anything will keep you updated. Thank you.
Thank you, Walker, and please stay safe. Dorothy is standing by with the business reports. Please.
Good afternoon and welcome. Time now for the business segment, and I am Dorothy Ajamai. Pressure on the pockets of motorists is expected to be eased due to the anticipated decrease in prices of some petroleum products at the pumps during this weekend. Consumers of petrol will from July 2, 2022 enjoy an 8% decrease on each litre of petrol, but a litre of diesel will increase by 3%. On the other hand, a kilogram of liquefied petroleum gas will see its price going down by 7%. Currently, a litre of petrol is going for 11 cedis, while diesel is 14 cedis. On the international markets, the price of a barrel of Brent crude is $119. We are joined by Mr. Fritz Moses of the Institute of Energy Securities, IES. Good afternoon and welcome, sir.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us. Now, what is accounting for the expected drop in prices of petrol and LPG at the pump from July 2, 2022?
All right. We are looking at the international market in the local season. Over the last year, the second window of June, that the various products on the international market have some marginal drop prices. For instance, for petrol, we saw a drop in price by around 5%. Diesel prices also fell, however, increased by some 3% in the international market. So I hope you find 10% reduction in the price over the period. And the question of the course, this will not in the whole that applies to the local stability, some marginal stability in the US dollar. And all the expected production that we are going to be on the course. We expect that all the OMCs and BDCs would change their US and their rate to reflect these new changes. Of course, the speed at which the increase in prices are
Right. Aside that too, the price of diesel is going up by 3%. Why is it so?
I think the European market is full. The impact of the function on that the biggest producer of diesel to Europe. There are having some demand is outpaced in Europe and Africa.
Mr. Moses, in simple terms, what will be the prices of a litre petrol and a kilogram of LPG from Saturday?
So from that, we are looking at petrol going below
It's difficult hearing from you. If you can kindly position well.
Okay. So the current figures that we have at the various points, we are certain that petrol will reach around 10 cedis, 50 pesos, or come down to 10 cedis per litre.
Okay.
For LPG and the diesel that's currently around 8 cedis, and then the 9 cedis, we expect this price increase about 13 cedis, 15 pesos. For some OMCs may want to stabilize prices to increase the market, something that we are expecting to see that has come with.
Right. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Fritz Moses. That will be all for now. That was Mr. Fritz Moses of the Institute of Energy Securities discussing with that what is accounting for the expected drop in price of petrol, which will take effect from Saturday, 2nd July 2022. Has been directed by the International Labour Organization to provide detailed information on practical measures put in place to eradicate the worst form of child labour, especially in cocoa and fishing sectors. The country must do so before the next session of the committee. While commending Ghana for some efforts, the UN agency believes effective reporting has been poor.
The ILO Committee of Experts on the Application of Conventions and Recommendations notes with concern that since 2015, only 10 prosecutions of persons involved in child trafficking has been made out of the many reported cases. The committee is therefore strongly urging government to pursue efforts to strengthen the capacity of law enforcement officials, including the Ghana Police Service, prosecutors and judges, so as to ensure that thorough investigations and prosecutions of persons who engage in the sale and trafficking of children are carried out. In this regard, the ILO, under the framework for trade for decent work, is equipping Ghana's judiciary and labor inspectors with the skills to participate actively in the elimination of child labor through application of international labor standards as pertains in Ghana's laws. According to the national coordinator of the Trade for Decent Work project, Dr. Ekuya Ofori Asumedu, Ghana has been double footnoted on the lack of political will to deal with child labor and its worst forms.
So the committee recommended that Ghana should eliminate the worst forms of child labor, notably in the cocoa industry, fishing sector and domestic servitude, and should ensure that child victims of such hazardous work are removed from these situations and rehabilitated, particularly through access to free education and vocational training. We should adopt the Ghana Hazardous Child Labor List. We should effectively enforce the Trafficking Act and Human Trafficking Legislative Instrument 2015, and also provide information to the Committee of Experts before its next session on the progress made in this regard, including the number of investigations, prosecutions, convictions, and penal sanctions applied since 2015.
She added that child labor has negative implication on trade. The international community, under the fair trade arrangement, is gradually shying away from merchandise produced with traces of child labor. The Trade for Decent Work project aims at improving the application of the ILO Fundamental Conventions in EU trading partner countries through improved labor relations and working conditions.
On the interbank markets, the cedi is trading at 7 cedis to the US dollar, to the pound sterling at 8 cedis 80 pesos, and the euro at 7 cedis 60 pesos. Up next are the figures and also the prices of gold, cocoa and light crude from the commodity board.